Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Andy and I usually make sex education videos on this channel more or less every single week. So it's a really good reason to stick around because you'll learn a whole bunch of stuff and that would be fantastic, wouldn't it? So in this video, I'd like to talk about heterosexuality, but specifically what we don't know about it. Considering it's been something which the majority of people in the world are versed in, considering it has to be something for you to reproduce, you'd think we'd know a lot about it. Well, we kind of do, but we don't know a lot more. What is the case is that we probably thought we knew a lot about it for a long time, and only recently, like in the last 100, 150 years or thereabouts, realised that we haven't actually got a clue because it's not the only natural order of things. So let me first start off and tell you about my own orientation. I classify myself as straight, but I would also identify as heteroflexible. The reason why I do that is because although I am heteroromantic, I think 100%, certainly at the moment, and I'll go into that a bit later, I don't think I'm 100% heterosexual. That manifests itself in a few ways, including fantasies, potentially what kind of porn that I might watch on occasion, who in the world every now and again I think, oh, they're nice, they're good looking. They're not always women, but for the most part I am straight, and if there was a form to fill in and there were boxes and they were straight, bisexual or gay, I would tick the straight box. And they usually don't put heteroflexible on the form. I've never seen it actually marked there. Sometimes you can write your own one in. Now, before I get on to what we don't know about heterosexuality, I think I better define a few things that at least we do know. The first thing is we know it's not a choice. It is generally accepted in science that there are plenty of biological reasons, a couple of environmental reasons, a few other things which can influence it and mean that it can change over time, but in general, nobody just chooses to be heterosexual, bisexual, homosexual, asexual, or anything else. It is something which they can't choose. We do know that romantic and sexual orientations can differ. So mine is a really good example. I feel at least that I am 100% heteroromantic. I only see myself being in relationships with women, and I only have desires to be in relationships with women. I might be slightly hetero-flexible when it comes to my sexual orientation. And although those two things are quite close if you think about it in the great scheme of things, it doesn't have to be that way. You could easily be romantically attached to all genders but only be sexually attracted to one, or sexually attracted to all genders but only romantically attracted to one. I guess it's even possible to be romantically attracted to one gender and sexually attracted to another one. I don't know anybody like that, but I'm sure it's possible. If you are, leave some things in the comments. I'd be really interested to hear about that. We also know that attraction is not the same as identity. So what you identify as isn't necessarily who you're attracted to. It's just what you would say when asked what your sexual orientation is. And we also know that specifically heterosexuality wasn't studied until the end of the 19th century. I mean, how long is that into human history? Some 3 million years. So, you know, we're a minute to midnight at the moment in human history, and we've just started to study this kind of thing. I mean, all sexualities have been around as long as records began. From when history was being written down, all sexualities have been recorded. But we've only just started studying this kind of thing very, very recently. And that's mostly because we thought, okay, we don't need to study this, it's clearly what's going on. And then people actually thought, actually, it's not particularly clear, is it? We might want to sort this out a bit. And we haven't yet, because it hasn't been long enough. Now, everything I've just said can be attributed to other sexual orientations, of course. That is absolutely the point, right? Anything that can be attributed to heterosexuality can also be attributed to asexuality, homosexuality, bisexuality, any other sexuality you can think of. If you're filling in a census, major surveys, they tend to come out with particularly structured questions. And the reason for that is it's much easier to count up quantitatively what the responses are. You usually get boxes such as heterosexual, homosexual, you might have bisexual on there, even asexual sometimes, and if you're lucky, you also have an other which you could fill in. But like I said, I would fill in that with heterosexual. I tick the heterosexual box because from a statistics point of view, I am heterosexual. I'm straight passing. There would be no statistical reason to put me in any other box than heterosexual. But that begs some question, doesn't it? And it points us on to what we don't know about heterosexuality. So the first thing is, how straight is straight? I would count myself as straight. And that's mostly actually based on my romantic orientation. Personally, because I'm only romantically attracted to women, I would say that I'm straight. I would tick the heterosexual box, even though in actual sexuality terms, I'm not 100% straight. So that's a problem for when we're recording things, but there's no reason for me not to tick that box, especially in how we work in society right now. So that's something to consider. Another thing to consider is gender roles and attraction. Are you attracted to a gender or are you attracted to a gender role? I mean, if you think about it, I'm not attracted to all women. I'm attracted to a subset of people who are all women. The type of woman that I'm attracted to is a strong, independent woman. Yes, that's right, Beyonce. Ironically, I'm not even that attracted to Beyonce. That's how weird it is. No, okay, so the type of woman I'm attracted to is somebody who can look after themselves, basically, doesn't need looking after, right? That's what I mean. But again, I'm not attracted to... Okay, this is why it's so hard to define. I can't even define my own preferences, which is, yeah. So this is the point. Am I attracted to that kind of gender role? Well, yeah, because obviously there are men who can look after themselves. So I'm attracted to a gender, but also a gender role, not a traditional women's gender role, but maybe a modern women's gender role. So therefore we don't know what the difference is between the response of somebody to what reality is, because reality is nuanced and on a scale and can change throughout time, and the response may differ depending on who you're talking to. So if I'm talking to a bunch of sex positive people, people, young people, metropolitan people, I'm more likely to say that I'm heteroflexible, especially if we're talking in a bit more of a nuanced conversation. However, if it's people I don't really know, if I'm ticking a box on a form, that kind of thing, I will respond heterosexual. Now for me, that's easy. For somebody who is questioning themselves and may not be heterosexual in any kind of definition, and they're not maybe completely gay, so think, oh, well, I must be heterosexual in that case. I like women if you're a man, or I like men if you're a woman. Is the shame of not fitting into that box meaning that you respond differently? This manifests itself not just in sexual orientation, it manifests itself in politics. Who can forget in 2015 when the Conservatives won a majority, but all the way up to that election, the polling was that it was going to be a very close run thing. Labour might just get more votes than the Tories and vice versa. And what actually happened is that everybody who was speaking to those pollsters was shy or lying or something like that. So there was this kind of shy Tories thing. In the privacy of the ballot box where nobody else knows what they've written, they can vote Conservative. But when they're speaking to somebody, they say, well, I might vote Labour, I don't know how I'm going to vote yet, all those kind of things. And that's to do with the shame of supporting a political party over another one. And that's the same thing as responding to a question, how you think you should respond rather than what is actually the case. So we don't know how many people that affects. Are there many, many more gay people, or non-straight people, I should say, out in the world, but they don't respond on surveys or to questioning? But this also points us towards toxic masculinity. Are people who are straight but like things which the gays like, are they considered really straight? You have this sort of opposite dichotomy where, you know, people sometimes believe that I'm gay because I like Eurovision and musicals. Sometimes they do. I get that every now and again. It isn't much of a problem for me because saying I'm straight, correcting somebody to say I'm straight, isn't a major thing in society. It's like, oh, you're straight, okay, great. Whereas the other way around, correcting someone to say, actually I'm gay, but I still like football and fast cars, then maybe that's not so easy for them. This might be some of the reason why, especially with toxic masculinity, that more men say that they are straight than women. Maybe there isn't that stigma there for women, for at least a lot of women in liberal society. And we also don't know how many people who are straight passing respond as heterosexual. Again, it's to do with heteroflexibility, or you're just not that very far down the Kinsey scale. You know, the Kinsey scale, for the people that don't know, it's a 7-point scale from 0 to 6, where 0 is completely heterosexual and 6 is completely homosexual. So if you're, you know, 1, 2, maybe even 3 on that scale, but you're straight passing, you might respond as heterosexual. Hell, you could even be 5 or 6 on that scale and be straight passing, and therefore respond in a box to heterosexual because it's what you think you should put. Some might call this whole thing compulsory heterosexuality because it's the right way of being. Years and years of societal norms saying that heterosexuality is the natural way of being has meant that people even think they are straight when they are not. But there is no box, there's no line that means that one side of it you are straight, the other side of it you are not straight. There is no obvious definition of where this line is. And perhaps even nobody is 100% straight. It's possible that everybody has a bit of attraction in some way to the same gender as them. And therefore, they're not 100% straight. So where is the line? Is it 95%, 98%? I don't know. Nobody does, because there isn't one. And also, sexuality is fluid. So where you are 10 years ago often is different to where you are now. Your sexuality can change over time. Not usually by huge amounts, but you know, a little bit one way or the other. If you're looking at a heterosexual, homosexual line dichotomy here. So none of these things we really know. Will we ever know them? We need to do more study. And of course, more study usually throws up more questions. There's more things that we don't know. And the more that we know we don't know, the more we can find out. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, then give it a thumbs up. You can do that just down below. I make videos more or less every single week, so subscribe and click the little bell so you're notified when I next upload. Leave a comment down below as well. Tell me what you think about this topic, and hopefully I will therefore see you next time. Bye-bye.